Good evening, and welcome to this Boulder Junction Town Board Forum. Can everyone hear me? I'm Dorothy Skye, President of the League of Women Voters of the Northwoods, and this evening's moderator. This is an opportunity in preparation for the April 2017 elections for the community to get to know the town board candidates and their positions on issues. Why is the League of Women Voters of the Northwoods pleased to have been asked to conduct this forum? Well, our mission is to help citizens, along with League members, to develop educated political opinions and act upon them through the democratic process. Our Northwoods chapter of the League of Women Voters is a member of the state and national leagues. As such, we are a nonpartisan organization that does not support any individual parties or candidates. We do, however, study and take positions and actions on issues of concern. We want to encourage the best in public discourse that continuously shapes public opinion and guides us when we step momentarily and individually into the voting booth. Special thanks 1,000 times over for the support provided by volunteers from the Boulder Junction Public Library. Raise your hand. Give me a hand. They set up the hall and some people spread the word about this forum and are here with our league volunteers to help things run smoothly. Importantly, this forum is being video recorded. The recording will be posted on YouTube, and it will be the link to that YouTube will be provided. We will also have DVDs available in the library. So let your friends and neighbors who couldn't make it this evening know that they can view the recording. And I understand the turnaround is going to be pretty fast. Is that Casey's giving me a thumbs up? And please give a round of applause to the Lakeland Union High School students who are volunteering to do the recording. That's Casey Cassine and John Hoopart. I hope that you two get the inspiration and the great education to become the next generation of photojournalists or documentary filmmakers. And those of us who have been around for a while, myself in particular, I admit, after I'm down the road, 47 years of marriage, 2 doctorate degrees, a 30-year career, and 3 great children, and I wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't for the start I got in West Glacier, Montana, at Apgar Elementary School. K-8, 13 students, and I was one of 3 in the first grade. And Miss Harrington, you're up there with my mother, who is a member of the League of Women Voters, saying, Dorothy, it's your turn to moderate. I will lay out the procedures for this forum. Each candidate for the Boulder Junction Town Chair, Town Supervisor, and Clerk Treasurer was invited to participate, and everyone accepted. Thank you, candidates. Each candidate received a copy of the procedures for the forum well in advance by email and postal mail. In addition, I hope each of you picked up a copy of the procedures as you entered. If you need a copy, raise your hand. Because you have the handout, I won't take time to read the procedures verbatim, but just to point out the key elements. Round 1 will be a 90-second opening statement from each of the candidates. This is the opportunity for the candidates to briefly explain their backgrounds, their qualifications, and their reasons for running. Round 2 will be Q&A, during which each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to respond to each question. This is your opportunity to learn how the candidates will address your priorities and concerns regarding the governance of your town. When you entered, I hope you also picked up a note card on which to write your questions. We want you Boulder Junction citizens to direct the evening with your questions. If you need a note card or a pen, please raise your hand at any time so a volunteer can get them to you. And yes, we will certainly accept questions written ahead of time on your own paper. In any case, please put your name on them. I will state the name of the person who submitted each question that I pose to the candidates. This is intended to keep the exchange open and above board and the questions clear and concise. I will gladly repeat questions, and based on experience, I expect folks to take me up on this frequently. If there is a lull in the questions from the audience, I may ask the candidates general relevant questions. If at any time a candidate in his or her answer makes specific reference to any other candidate who has already spoken to the question, the referenced candidate will have an opportunity for a 30-second response. Round 3 will be 60-second closing statements. Our expert timers in the front row here, demo your signs. They're not so subtle signs, will help us adhere strictly to the time limits. And I'm afraid I will stop you, candidates, in mid-sentence if you run over. The yellow sign goes up at 30 seconds remaining. The red sign goes up at 60 or 90 seconds, and that is a stop. As a final preliminary, I need to address several caveats and concerns of which I've been made aware. Please put your cell phones on silent mode. Please refrain from applause or other extraneous noise. This will avoid unwelcome distraction. I will rotate the order of response by candidate so that the same candidate is not asked to answer first in each round. As stated in the list of procedures you received, I will reserve the right to choose the best example of similar questions so that one issue will not take up the whole forum at the expense of questions on other issues. If there is a candidate that a question feels does not pertain to his or her office, the candidate should feel free to say something like, "This question is outside the scope or responsibilities of my office." Regarding an inquiry about access to and fate of the written questions, the written questions will be passed to me. I intend to keep them in my possession and not share them with anyone, and to shred them afterwards. And I was told it was okay if I share with you that I recycle everything I shred. I have chickens. They know to lay eggs in the shreddings and do other stuff on the wood shavings. And finally, I was asked to read this statement that sets down one topic that's out of bounds because it's the subject of legal proceedings. An open meetings violation complaint regarding town employees' compensation and benefits has been filed by the Lakeland Times with Vilas County District Attorney Marla Malowski. She referred the complaint to the Vilas County Sheriff's Department, and Sheriff has contacted Chairman Dennis Ross. The town's legal counsel has advised the town board and the town treasurer not to discuss the matter until the investigation is complete. So questions about town employees' compensation and benefits are off the docket. The League of Women Voters has a lot of experience conducting public forums using procedures that encourage respectful, useful public discourse. But because there's always room for improvement, we encourage you to fill out the evaluations to give us feedback. With that, I'll introduce the candidates, and they are seated by office: chair, supervisors, clerk treasurer, Within the offices, they're seated alphabetically, left to right. And as I said, I will rotate the starting. Candidates for town chairman are Dennis Rice and Charlie Spencer. Candidates for town supervisor are Barbara Boston, Wesley J. Johnson, Frederick D. Marsh, and Denny McGann. Candidate for clerk treasurer is Kendra Marcheski. Did I do it? Okay, so we will start with the opening statements, and first up is Charlie Spencer, and we'll go that way.
Testing one. Hello, can you hear me? Yep. Okay, I just want to thank the library, the League of Women's Voters, our folks here from the Lake Union High School, members of the press, and all of you folks for coming out tonight. One thing I've learned over the years, and my wife points it out to me all the time, is Boulder Junction has probably one of the most active electorates anywhere around in the Northwoods. And I appreciate the effort that you've all made to come out tonight to participate in this event. I moved to Boulder Junction in 1975. I raised my children here. I've been a resident now for 42 years. Most of my professional career was in the home medical industry. My first position was as a field technician, and I worked my way up to the position of Director of Operations for Dr. Keats Middock's home medical equipment. 10 years ago, I was appointed to the Boulder Junction Town Board to fill a vacancy. I served 2 terms as your supervisor and then 2 terms as your town chairman. I decided to step down in 2015 due to taking a position as a patient advocate with American Home Patient. American Home Patient closed their operations last year, and I decided to throw my hat back in the ring. About a year ago, some of our citizens approached me about some of the issues that they were concerned about. I advised them to please take that to their supervisors and their town chairman. These people, same people, returned to me and asked me if I would please run again. So, because of some of the issues that are affecting our township. And that's why I've decided to throw my hat back in the ring.
Mr. Rice.
Good evening, and I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the library and everybody here tonight in this room for the interest that we have at hand. 2 years ago, I saw a renewed spark in our community, and this is obvious tonight by the number of citizens that are willing to step up and sitting at this front table to run for a town office. It's not an easy job. I have made mistakes myself in the community, and hopefully will renew and learn from those as we go forward. We have many projects in this town, and I'm very pleased to work for the community, and I will work very hard to carry out all the projects that we have started and the future projects that we are at task with. Enhancement of the downtown, upgrading of the community park, ballparks, ball diamonds, bike trail improvements. We have installed, or will be installing 47 signs on the bike trail system, or 47 miles of signage on the bike trail system. Our mural downtown, our exposure to the public and to the state of Wisconsin with hosting Stephanie Klett this summer, giving Boulder Junction a focus on what's going on and the focus in our community. Upgrading and additional equipment for the fire and EMS, extended fire break for the safety of this community. These are just a few of the many projects that we are currently working on and will continue to support. Thank you for coming.
Mr. McGann.
Turn it off.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. Can everybody hear me? And thank you to the library, and I'd like to thank everybody for their attendance this evening. I'm Denny McGann. I am the co-owner of McGann's Pub and Wine Bar in Boulder Junction with my wife Ellen. We opened our business in 2009, and we'll be celebrating our 8th anniversary this October. Upon the recommendation and urging of some of the citizens of this community, I decided to run for town supervisor back in 2010, and I was elected, and I've run for re-election ever since. I had second thoughts this year, but under encouragement, and I decided to do this again. Frankly, I like to finish things that I start. and our work's not finished. I graduated with a degree in business administration and marketing, and served in the technology sector with wireless mobile data collection computing equipment for almost 30 years. We raised our family in the Chicago area, and then we decided to move to Boulder Junction in 2009. We've been here ever since. I look forward to serving the community moving forward. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate your vote on April 4th.
Mr. Marsh.
Hello, I'm Fred Marsh. I'm a longtime resident, born and raised. I have a bachelor's degree in human services. I'm also a retired chef from many of the different restaurants in the area. And I decided to run for a simple reason that I saw a change in the town that didn't sit well with me. And I said, well, let's see what I can do. I know the history of the town, and if you vote on April 4th, vote for whoever you think is best candidate, and thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the library for putting this on, and all the people that came here as well. I'm Wes Johnson. Most of you know me as the owner of West Star Plumbing, which I've run for 25 years. My wife and I moved up here in 2000, we built our home in 1999 and became full-time residents 7 years ago. Last summer, the Plaza project caught everyone's attention. We attended a few of the meetings where the majority were not on board. Also, the Chamber's survey showed 60% of respondents were not in favor of the Plaza in its present form. That, more than anything, is what made me decide to run for supervisor. I know, of course, this job has many challenges, but I see it as a great opportunity to move our town in a better direction. Thank you.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for coming, and thank you to our forum sponsors
tonight. Excuse me. Hello. Thank you all for attending. I'm Barb Boston. I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you at the town office where I worked as deputy clerk treasurer over a period of 10 years. It's during that time that I worked with 3 different chairmen, 6 different supervisors, and 2 different clerks. I had the opportunity to observe many different approaches and many different work ethics. So why am I running for town supervisor? I'm asking for an opportunity to work for you, our community, a community that I love. With almost 10 years experience in the town office, I have the background to hit the ground running. That's what I bring to the table. I also bring 3 beliefs: in transparency, civility and respect, and following the laws. If elected, I pledge to work together with you, the community, to get things done to continue making Boulder Junction better. We love our Boulder Junction just the way it is. We have to take care of it, we have to maintain it, and continue making it better, just as has happened all throughout its years. This work needs to get done effectively, efficiently, and economically. I can do this job, and it is a real job. Thank you for attending tonight, for your interest in local town government, and for voting on April 4th.
Ms. Marcheski.
Thank you to the sponsors tonight. Marcus Aurelius once stated, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Wouldn't you agree? The experience I have accrued in my last 5 years has enlightened me for the future. I have proven capable of multiple projects that show my enthusiasm to complete tasks with responsibility, equanimity, nonpartisanship, exercising ethical respect, discretion, and confidentiality. I am here to petition for your vote for clerk treasurer. The town clerk treasurer administrates democratic processes such as elections, access to town records, and all legislative actions, ensuring transparency to the public. My experience and insight to apply my talents streamline these tasks through organization, consolidation, and efficiency for our community. I expect to continue these duties with a better understanding from knowledge that my first 5 years has given me. I was appointed to the UW Green Bay Clerks and Treasurers Institute Advisory Board for 3 years. I'm also the District Director of the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association and a member of the Wisconsin Treasurers Association. I graduated last year at the UW Green Bay as a certified municipal clerk treasurer. I will go back this fall
Okay,
to
thank you.
do treasurer completion.
Thank you. Now we will move on to round 2, Q&A. This is from Ray Schneider, who asked all the candidates, what are your top 3 priorities for the town for the next 2 years? And this time we will start with Mr. Royce. I'm aware that I've become aware that people notice every detail in the way these forums are constructed and run and so forth. And somebody asked me about why are the women down there at the end? Well, you can look at it that way, but I'm a woman. You can also say, guys, we got you surrounded. So, Mr. Royce, you don't look like that scared you at all.
No.
So we'll let you.
I'm making my notes.
He's using every second. So, Mr. Royce, what are your top 3 priorities for the town for the next 2 years?
It was explained to me by a good friend of mine, if you try to take on too many projects, you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing. And he sat down and said, pick out your top 3 priorities. And we picked them out and we're working on them presently. One is our road project, improvement road project, the presenting to the public an options, or actually 7 options that the public will have a choice to choose on in the very near future to make a commitment to where we want to go with our road improvement project. Another project is our clerk treasurer's position. That was an issue that was brought by the public to the town board and has to be completed, whether or not we should split our clerk treasurer's position on the town board. The third one was police action or police authority for the town of Boulder Junction. Those 3 are going to be answered and there will be comments made prior to or at our annual meeting or prior to our annual meeting.
Mr. McGann.
I think it's already, is it on? Okay. Yes, the top 3 priorities, in my mind, over the next 2 years, the number 1 priority has got to be our roads. We've embarked on a committee process that's been going on since, I want to say November. We should have been on top of this, I think, earlier in the year, but I'm glad we finally got started with it. And it's been some diligent work and some diligent meetings. A lot of time's been invested in it. I've traveled every single one of these roads, and we've got a strong committee, and we want to see this project through. And we'll be presenting options to the public. That is the number 1 priority. The number 2 priority is roads, and the number 3 priority is roads. The other 2 priorities after that, I personally think we have to focus on our parks and recreation. There is a parcel of land that we've expressed interest in. It's a 10.3 parcel of land just adjacent to this. And we have to focus on our youth in this area. We have to be looking for future leaders. Casey, glad you're here. And we have to be doing more for our youth in this community and the young families that are here. We can do that with recreation. And frankly, the clerk treasurer is last on my list, but that's something we've got to continue to focus on. It's been asked for us to deliver on, and we will be delivering on that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Marsh.
Well, like the other 2 candidates said, roads are top priority. Living here for my entire life, I know the good, bad, and the ugly on these roads. Second, we need to look at reducing the town debt. And third, we need to look at economic development to bring more businesses into town.
Well, again, I think.
Mr. Johnson, excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Town roads, obviously, that's gonna be the #1 issue in this community right now. I've been to a few of the meetings. It's a complicated issue, but I think they're gonna get something out to you people that you're gonna be able to vote on. And then again, now the plaza, that's another story. I think we could use some kind of a band shell. Maybe we can concentrate on that, finding a piece of land that we don't have to spend a lot of money on, that we can use just the money we have to get that done. I guess that's about it.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you. I believe that roads is an ongoing issue and should always be #1. Doing road work every year would be a goal, and figuring out a conscientious and affordable plan would be good. Also, I'll just call it cleaning up loose ends, which would be the clerk treasurer decision and the police decision. Those all need to be handled. But more to the basics, I feel like we need to focus on some basics of civility and respect in our town meetings. I believe that the local officials set that tone, and I have a book I've been studying. We're not the only ones who have issues with that. There's much out there with how to, and the reason it's important is because we all have very differing views. And in order to use those different views effectively, we need to present them with respect so we can hear them, all of us. And I'm speaking of myself too, of course. And so I think that consciously addressing some of those things, and also the open meeting laws, making sure we're following those, the statutes we need to be following. These are the basics, but very important so that we can move forward. You can't run a marathon until you learn how to walk. And as along with the open meeting laws would be our own town ordinances, which are our own laws that we are governed under and that we govern by. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
For the town office, I had this project on my list for a while. I really would like to do a more in-depth records retention and destruction of some records that are sitting there that really aren't something that the town needs to be having in the vault. We moved a lot of it over here from the old building just because there was no time for the big project. So as far as in my office, that's important to me. If the town board decides that they are not going to go with the ordinance codification, I have a backup plan to make sure that all of the ordinances can get on the town website. This last summer, we were able to get at least the most up-to-date ones, but by year, the resolutions onto the town website, which I think is a good thing. So we did halt the project on the ordinances when the codification came up, just so we wouldn't do double work. As far as my third priority, and it's always been a priority, is to support the town board initiatives, whatever they may be. Obviously, they vary, and if there's any administrative support or emails that need to be sent, questions that need to be answered, I'm always there to help. Thanks.
Next question.
Stop.
Oops. Thank you. Not only do you prevent people from going over, but you prevent people from being neglected by the moderator. Mr. Spencer, with my apologies.
Well, I think just about all of us sitting here agree that our roads, it's finally time that we address them. It's not a new topic within this community. It's been going on for decades that the electors have been approached and asked to provide more funds, because I, as town chairman, could never find a road construction company that would build us roads for free. And so as a result, over 20, 30, 40 years, we've just been patching up over patch, and occasionally doing a little bit of renovation. During my term as your chairman, I reinstituted actual pavement. We did Day Lake Road, we did Town Line Road. I'm not sorry, not Day Lake Road, we did Town Line Road, and we also did Bear Lake Road. In addition to that, we chip coated cluster roads in back of the community church, And we also convinced the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to reopen our gravel pit, which dropped our cost of gravel from like $16 a yard down to about $5 a yard. So while I was in office, we had a very aggressive road program. And in the last 2 years, we have not had any of our roads rebuilt. My second priority is fiscal restraint, and I guess I can just say the word plaza. We just put up this community center. We're still going to be paying for it for 18 more years. To try to strap on another project of that size, I think is too much. And then finally, restoring public trust. These too many closed meetings, too many things going on. I'm not going to bring up what we're not supposed to talk about tonight, but I think restoring trust is key.
Very good. Next question is more about the plaza. And this is several people had variations of this, including Pam Hoffman, Steve Halder, Nikki Cashin, and Pam Hoffman. What are your feelings on the town plaza project? Do you feel its construction is necessary for the viability of the town? And should the people of the town vote on it? And this time we'll start with Mr. McGann.
Please call me Dad. Mr. McGann was my dad. With respect to the plaza, many of you here have attended any of those meetings, know where I stand on this. My position on this has been crystal clear from the beginning. I have not thought this is a good idea from the beginning. That hasn't changed. I think what I see going forward is we should not move forward with the town plaza. I do think there's consensus in this town. I witness it in my business, and I know a lot of the downtown business owners witness it too. There is needs for public restrooms, but we don't need a $1.2 million or $1.5 million project to accomplish that and achieve that goal. If we're going to focus on something, we should focus on perhaps public restrooms and maybe a stage.
Mr. Marsh.
You can call me Fred.
All right, Fred.
I agree, because I don't feel that we need a plaza, because for the simple reason, you can build a bandstand or a stage, and you can have local people come and help build that stage, and you can move it from point A to point B to point C, and it wouldn't cost $1.2 million. Furthermore, we have a beautiful pavilion right over here that can be used for anything such as a band stage. Why not utilize that more? Plus, we have this great town hall that can be utilized more. So, are there other things that we can do? Yes, we can use bathrooms. I've heard more people say, put restrooms in, put restrooms in. So, that is where I think we should spend the money at, is putting some restrooms downtown. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, yes, like I said in my opening statement, I believe that the people in the town here were not on board with the plaza in its present form, which means that we could possibly use some restrooms. That's something maybe downtown that we could use. We have maybe $230,000 in our room tax fund right now, and that's where this money is going to, or that's where the funding is going to come from. It shouldn't come from the citizens here. It should definitely come from the room tax money. And like I said, bandstand. Yes, we could put something behind here if we wanted, if that was feasible, or something that we can move around, like Fred said. But definitely do not spend any money of any tax dollars of our citizens. Just use what we have, and just build bathrooms. That would be the proper thing to do, I think.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you. Well, I think we're pretty much in consensus here on this one with the basics. That the plaza idea, would you believe that the original idea for this was a basic stage and bathrooms with programming and events? That was the original idea. And that idea I supported. I think it should be taken off the table Let's do the programming and eventing with the room tax, because that is to stimulate our economy with tourism. Those dollars are. Let's create a committee and use the funds to do that here at this venue, at the Winter Park, not build any new infrastructure, do that for several years, and reassess whether we need a downtown event venue, which was the original idea. And the idea was, in order to fill our vacant buildings downtown for economic development, to bring greater mass of people more frequently to our downtown. And that's where the events with music, little bigger performances of music, arts, whatever, contests, art contests, dog contests are very big and popular right now. Dog shows. When you bring more people to your downtown, that your downtown business values go up, and the theory is that our vacant buildings would get filled. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
This isn't really a clerk treasurer position. I don't make decisions, so.
Good enough. Mr. Spencer.
That was one of the biggest issues that was brought up to me when I was requested to run again for office. A lot of people thought that we were getting really fiscally off track here in Boulder Junction. Again, we just put up this beautiful community center. We've got the awning out the back there that can sponsor some activities. We've still got our pavilion. We've got Winter Park. The whole concept of restrooms downtown has been something I struggled with for my 8 years while I was on the board. And the bottom line is we have to acquire property. And when we looked into that, the cheapest property that we could acquire was in that $200,000 to $250,000 range. And that's before we put in a septic system, put in a building, put in the water system, et cetera, necessary for it, potentially a mound system, because in downtown areas there's some difficulties getting septics. So when we looked into it, it always stared us in the face that just to put in restrooms could conceivably be up to $500,000. We looked at the simple solution being the nicer quality, I guess you call them portalettes, portable toilets, but nobody wanted those because they're just not what represents our downtown. So I can support continuing on looking for restrooms in downtown. I just want everybody to know, heads up, it's not going to be inexpensive.
Mr. Rice.
Sitting here and listening to the fellow candidates that are running for office, and the word plaza is not one of my favorite words, but a downtown improvement project is one of my favorite words. We are always looking for some way of improving our community and our town. And we've submitted, or we've invested a minimum amount of dollars at this point to come up with a conceptual design for a downtown improvement project. What that is, we won't know yet until we get that presented to the public. At that point, the public will have the opportunity to vote on it, and if the public decides they're not interested, if it's toilets, if it's restrooms, if it's band shells, or if it's just seating areas or improved parking, that'll all be presented to the public. At that point, if the public says we're not interested, well, that's fine. We planted a seed. At least we've got a way to find out from the populace of what we should be looking for. And if it's not a plaza development, it'll be something maybe close to it or maybe nothing at all. But the public will make that choice at a future date when it's presented. Thank you.
Next question is a combination of a more general question and something that's very specific. To begin with the general one, economic development is vital for the businesses in Boulder Junction. What is your position now that the Vilas County has allowed ATV use based on individual municipality approval? What is your stance on allowing development of ATV trails or road access trails? This comes from Landy Ripke, Pam Hoffman, and Amy Wheeler. So specific ideas for economic development and the ATV issue. And this time we're starting with Mr. McGann. Excuse me, Denny.
No, Fred.
Fred Marsh.
Fred?
I went first last time, but I'd be happy to go first again.
I'll go ahead, Fred.
Go, Fred.
So, ATVs and economic development. Well, I am on the town board's economic development committee, and we are putting a survey, we have a survey out. I hope everybody is taking it. If not, it's online. And ATVs, I'm not sure about that, but I do have one solution. If we did one corridor to Ironwood, one corridor to Michigan, and one corridor to Oneida County, and be a hub, but not have a ton of road, ton of extra trails, that was something I would be in support of.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, we were in Eagle River the other day, and parked right on Wall Street was a four-wheeler. So I know Eagle River has that, they like that. I personally think it's not something that, it isn't my choice, it's not gonna be my choice, it really doesn't matter what I think, it's the people out here, they're gonna vote. If they see, if you guys see a need to bring ATV trails to our town, and you think that that's gonna help our community, then it's gonna happen. For myself, you know, I mean, I run my dog out on snowmobile trails. I'm not sure if they're going to use those trails or they're going to develop their own, but like I say, it's going to be a choice that you're going to have to make going forward. So, thank you.
Ms. Boston?
Thank you. I want to
Hello, I'd like to back up a second on that last answer. Part of the question was whether we think that the people should vote on the plaza, and yes, I think the people definitely should have that opportunity to vote and have opportunity to engage with the decisions, in most of the decisions. As far as economic development, I did with Chairman Royce and Jeff Long last year, made an application for the town to be a Connect community member. That is part of the Main Street program. They do economic development through the state. It's a program that gives you tools to use, and that's what initiated the Economic Development Committee that Freddie's on currently. And I've been attending all those meetings. As far as the ATVs go, I think that outdoor recreation is what we do. It's what we do best here in Boulder Junction, and we should look into any and all. I think we have the advantage right now that many area towns have recently decided to open up to that, so we have a lot of resources that we can research and explore, talk to all the different aspects of the community, see how it's going, and get their opinions. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Marcheschi?
It's not an issue for my office.
Mr. Spencer?
Well, when we initially started the bike trail projects, there was a lot of concern by the silent sports crowd that ATVs would not be a good mix. I have definitely softened my position considerably on that after seeing what's going on in our neighboring communities. The whole ATV group, the clubs, etc., have very much matured. When I used to travel over into the areas around Hayward 15, 20 years ago, the roads were all chewed up. The people were driving off trail all the time, causing a lot of trouble. I've been back in that area with my new job that I'm doing now, and I don't see any of those problems. And I see ATVs parked in front of restaurants, parked at gas stations, parked in front of hotels, motels. And I think it would be a strong thing to support our shoulder season. One of my friends, John Vita, posted a thing on Facebook, several of us were talking about it today, of downtown Boulder with his car being the only car on the street. And it said on today, on this date in 2017, nothing happened in Boulder Junction. We need ATVs and UTVs. So I'm also a believer in the corridor concept. I think there's plenty of room for silent sports where we could possibly create trails where there wouldn't be conflict. So yes, I'm very much in support of it, primarily because we need help in our shoulder seasons.
Mr. Royce?
Thank you. Economical development is critical in a small town. It's made up of many things, including recreational vehicles, snowmobiling, bicycling, silent sports. But at this point, we're asked to comment on an ATV system, and I have yet to see any documentation or plans for an ATV trail system or managing of a trail system, law enforcement, state forestry plan. There's a lot of questions to be answered, and I think once we get all the information brought to the board and brought to the community and let the community have their input, I think it's a ways out yet, but I think it's something that's on the horizon. I think it's something that we're gonna have to be aware of, and something that we're gonna have to be faced with the decision whether or not we want to put in ATV trail system or connecting links to a trail system. But I think we need a lot of information, a lot of questions have to be answered before we do that.
Denny?
If I could ask you to read, I want to make sure I understand the first part of that question. Is the question around economic development with ATV and UTV, or is it broad? I mean, there's two different issues there.
It's
just-
broad and specific.
Okay.
What economic development do you think is best for businesses in Boulder Junction? That's the general. And the specific is, now that Vilas County has allowed ATV use based on individual municipality approval, what is your stance on allowing development of ATV trails or road access trails?
Okay, well, I'm gonna tackle the first part of that with the economic development, and try to do this quickly. Since we've opened our business in 2009, I can honestly say there was really, we watched a couple of businesses close, and there was a lot of other businesses were not open on the, I call it the Highway M Park Street corridor. Since we've been open in 2009, the bakeries reopened, our restaurant reopened, we now have a greenhouse that opened, we also have a new gift shop that just recently opened, and now a real estate office is opening. So as far as economic development on the Highway M Park Street corridor over the past 8 years, things have been happening. The downtown Main Street, we still have vacant buildings, and that's something that still needs to continue to be addressed. But I think the town has been moving in a direction for economic development. You're starting to see people open new businesses in town and want to continue to encourage that. With respect to the ATV and UTVs, my position on this is, from a personal point of view, I think the forest and the woods surround us are big enough for everybody. We have to do it consciously, and it really is the people's decision that live in the community, and we need to engage them. But as a town, we have to stay focused and seeing what's going on, and we should be digging in and taking a good hard look at it.
Very good. Okay, this is a town clerk treasurer question. Kendra, you are, this is Pam Hoffman, Richard L. Jenkins. You're in the most knowledgeable position to offer an opinion on the town clerk treasurer position. Should it be split, elected, or appointed? Is the treasurer position as elected necessary? What's the best for the citizens of Boulder Junction, and why?
Okay, I'm not trying to cheat here, but it is the elector's decision in the end. We are coming up with a very good analysis. We're trying to look at every aspect and really try to get the word out of the job itself, because I don't know that everybody really knows what goes on in the office, and I don't blame you, but there's a variety of things that go on, and I'm not going to say what my personal opinion is, because in the end it is you guys' decision what will be done. I think the analysis that will be given at the annual meeting of the electors will give each of you a lot of information to consider. You will not necessarily need to make a decision on April 18th. We have some time where you will be presented this information, and if you have follow-up questions, you can speak to any of the board members or myself, or contact other town clerk treasurers with follow-up questions, which I would invite people to do, because it is your decision on what you think is the best thing for the town. And I'm not here to tell you guys what to do. I'm here to work for you. And I will support whatever the electors decide, and we will move forward. However, it turns out just like we do with everything else. Thanks.
And Ms. Marcheski, I asked you to answer first because this question was directed to you, but I want to give each of the candidates a chance to speak if they choose to. So we'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Well, I think as far as splitting the position, I don't see that it's going to be a plus for us actually. Again, it'll be your decision whether or not we're going to split that. And I also feel that if it's an elected position, I think an elected position is better. I know that they're in for 2 years, and you can't just fire them after just because something goes wrong according to what you think is supposed to be done. But I think it should be an elected position. I think we should vote on it whether or not we want to split or not. I don't think it should be split. I think it should be one position.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you.
Yes, it will be the elector's decision whether to have this a split position or an elected, forced choices, or elected versus appointed. I just wanted to point out that it has been combined for the last 20 years. Prior to that, for about 85 years, it was split with two different people, the clerk and the treasurer. This was an experiment to see if more people would be drawn to the position, bigger position, more benefits. The data is coming in from the analysis, and it's been very interesting. Back when it was combined in '96, the audit that is required only with the combined position was at $1,000. Today, it's at $6,000. If you split the position, you no longer have the audit. You have a check and balance with 2 people. You have statutorily defined duties for the clerk and separate ones for the treasurer. And then we have our own Boulder Junction duties for our, with the office hours, making room reservations that all the clerks have in the area. They have their own, and those are flexible between the two. So you would have 2 part-time positions. Therefore, there's no need to offer benefits. So we could save, it could be more cost-effective. Those are just some thoughts for you to consider. Thank you.
Mr. Spencer.
This topic's come up numerous times while I was both supervisor and chairman, and I just want everybody to realize if we are to vote on this in the next meeting of the electors or at some future date, that doesn't go into play for another 2 years yet. So whether we want to make a speedy decision here right after an election at the next meeting of the electors is something I'm a little concerned about. I think we need to digest some additional data on this. If I was to become your chair, I would encourage that we put this off for at least probably 60 to 90 days, push it into the midsummer, where the data would be more publicly known. Some of the examples of pros are the less cost of the benefits, and having the split position, you have 2 people that can back each other up occasionally. And also you can hire from outside the township. You know, in other words, run a one ad, basically pick the best qualified candidate, but then that takes the power of taking your clerk treasurer away from you, the voters. So when this data comes out, I think we need some time to digest it before we make a quick decision.
Mr. Royce.
Our current board is currently working on a complete analysis of the clerk treasurer's position, whether it's elected or appointed, whether it's split or single. We are going to make this presentation to the public, and when this presentation is made, I'm sure we're going to get feedback from the public, both at the annual meeting and it may go on further than the annual meeting, because it's going to be a voice of the electorate, and they're going to make a choice of where we should be going with this. And I think there's going to be a great deal of time spent with questions that are being asked, and it may not happen in the very near future, but we do have some time to work on this. And this analysis will be presented at our annual meeting.
Denny McGann.
Yes, being a current member of the board, this has been a topic of discussion, and we've been meeting on it as a result of a previous electors meeting where the request was made that we present something in April to the electorate and let them understand what the pros, the cons would be of splitting the clerk treasurer position. We have been working on this diligently with many meetings. This, and I agree with Charlie, this has come up in the meeting of the electors before. It's typically not really gone anywhere, but this time it seems to be, we've got information that we can provide to the electorate. It is the electorate's decision to make. It's a little complicated, elected versus appointed, but ultimately it's the elector's decision. And as far as I'm concerned, it is your decision. It's the way you want to move forward with the town. We can present you with the data that we've collected, the pros, the cons, and then ultimately it's your decision. And it is, Charlie did point out, it is, we cannot do this for 2 years. So there is no sense of urgency other than to get you the data and take your time and make a good conscious decision. Make sure that decision is in the hands of the electorate, though.
Fred Marsh.
I've sat in some of the meetings that Tom Board has done on this town clerk analysis, and I've got my ideas, but I don't think we need to rush this. Like everybody said, we have 2 years before anything would happen. Why rush anything? Let's take our time and get it done, and get it done right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, we haven't given you a chance to answer first yet, so
Okay.
you're up number one for this question from Stephen Halder. Roads highlighted as, quote, first action roads, end quote, are not the worst in our area. Just who decided on those to get, quote, first, end quote, attention, and why? Should our Northwoods roads only be chip sealed or paved?
Repeat that question for me, please.
I'll paraphrase it and then I'll read it verbatim.
Okay, thank you.
Who decided what to do to which roads? And do we chip seal them or pave them? And you know that chip seal is the stuff that comes out of the recycling factory. We can't use glass anymore, so they grind it up and mixed it with other stuff to make this aggregate that you can spread on the road and pour oil over it, and it's cheaper than pavement. That's my 2 cents. I'm sorry, my father was a road engineer. So, roads highlighted as first action roads are not the worst in our area. Just who decided on those to get first attention and why? And should our Northwoods roads only be chip sealed or paved?
Okay, well, let's start out with who decided. Now, we have a town road committee. They've driven every road in our community and decided which roads are the worst and which are in good shape. So we're gonna have to do some of the roads, but not all of the roads. I think we're gonna have to do something like 60% of the roads. And that'll be over maybe a 5 or 10 year period, whatever we decide, you decide. Anyways, asphalt is quite expensive, and chip seal is a more economical way of taking care of some of the roads. So the roads that are the most heavily traveled, they're gonna be asphalt. And then from there, they'll go to chip seal, and then from there, they'll maybe even be gravel. Just depends on how many miles there are of road before you get to a house. I mean, it's a complicated issue, but the road committee has really, I think, done a really good job of identifying what roads we need to do first, and identified what we should put on them, whether it be asphalt or something called new road, which is a little more durable product than the chip seal. So, like I say, in the electors meeting that we're going to have on I think it's April, towards the end of April, they'll present that to you, and then we can make some decisions based on what data they've come up with.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you.
I do want to thank the road committee. It's a committee of 5 people, the 3 town board members and 2 citizens, and they have done a lot of work on this. I have questions myself as to the rankings. I've seen a list from 8 years ago with some roads ranked high that haven't been fixed yet, and it's not high on on this ranking. So, you know, there's subjectivity, but I know they're trying to do a good job and be thorough. I do think that the roads with a lot of residents that are here full-time need priority over roads that just have logging done on them with no residents there. That's just my personal view. We do have a challenge here in Boulder Junction with our roads. We have 92 miles of roads, and only about 12% of our land is taxable with a tax base. So that's in comparison with our neighbor, for example, Manitwish Waters. They have about 50 miles of roads and more than triple the amount of land mass for a tax base. So that creates a challenge, and we're always going to have that challenge. That doesn't mean that we can't do our best with a road program, and I think that that should be a priority every year. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
Although I've been in these meetings for the last couple of years, I know a lot more about roads than I ever did. And that's great, but I'm gonna let the town candidates finish the question.
Mr. Spencer.
Well, I can tell you this, in the 8 years that I served, roads has always been number one on the list. And I joke amongst my friends that if, as town chairman, I told everyone, we're never gonna get our roads fixed, ever, ever. Because if we do my road, I'll be run out of office. So the choice of which roads to do, is somewhat subjective, but I have attended at least one or two of the road committee meetings, and they are doing an exceptional job. A beyond belief exceptional job collecting data, and they're going to present to you folks, I think 5 or 6 different options from, you know, first going out and doing major paving of as many roads as we can in a few year, two maybe 3 year project that could start at about $7 million. Of course, when you throw interest into that, it's going to be $9 point something million, and that's going to add to your tax bill substantially for the next 20 years. And, you know, that's a choice you're going to have to make if you want to be that aggressive. And then there's other plans in the works that are going to be from, say, $300,000 a year, which is much more affordable to us as taxpayers, and do it on a slower basis. So those are the choices that you're going to be offered. By the way, that information is up on the website, and it is absolutely excellent, and I encourage all of you to look at that. But as soon, no matter who's on this board, you're going to be asked to improve your own roads. It's just a matter of how much do you want to do it once and how much do you want to pay.
Mr. Rice.
We have a current road improvement committee, made up of myself, Danny McGann, Dennis Duke, Greg Van Grinsven, and Bill Phelan. Between the 5 of us, and Kendra Marcheski's been doing our secretarial work, we are looking for a secretary for the road committee, so if anybody's interested in applying for a job, we're looking for somebody. But to go back to the serious note of this, we are talking about 7 major divisions in our proposals for the road committee. These are for the road improvement project. The volume of the roads and the type of roads that are being done is based on volume, occupancy, and public safety. The entire program will be presented to the public. We will be talking about running from chip seal, or from asphalt, from chip seal to asphalt, from chip seal to chip seal, from stone mastic overlay from chip seal, or just plain gravel. We have over 90 miles of roads, and all the roads at one form need some point of improvement. We also have a continued road plan in process for the public to review, and we're going to have these public hearings in the very near future, and it's all displayed in our website and our town hall for the district, or for public information, and we hope that everybody attends.
Danny McGann.
Yes, I obviously, as a town board member, sit on this committee, and we have been doing quite a bit of work on this. And to answer the question, the first part of it, we haven't picked the roads yet. We've got a list that we've identified, and as was pointed out, we did this by the condition of the road, the amount of occupancy on the road, and how much travel it gets. So those are how we've prioritized them. There's also, which we do every 2 years, which is it's called a PASER rating, and that's for financing with programs that are available through the state too. And we do the PASER ratings every year too. So these roads are analyzed on a 2-year basis. But we went out and actually drove these roads, so that's where the list came up from. With respect to chip seal and with respect to pavement, as we're looking at these two and we're going through the evaluation, and this will all be presented to the public, we have a problem with drainage here, and it doesn't make any difference if it's chip seal or asphalt if you don't have the proper drainage, because the road's going to deteriorate either way. So we've done our work on that. That'll all be part of the presentation. I encourage you to look at the website because all this information is up there. It is in the hallway here. There's a book, Road 101, that's worth taking a look at too. It describes the difference between chip seal and asphalt as well.
Fred Marsh.
Well, after living up here as long as I have, this has been a problem for many, 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 many years. And no matter what happens, you're still going to have problems because freeze-thaw cycle that happens every spring. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can do the best you can. So, like everybody's been saying, come to the meeting in April, and it's up to you. It's up to you, folks.
Next question comes from Alex Black, who wants to know how the candidates propose to help this plant town and the area retain young residents who leave Boulder due to lack of opportunities. And we'll start with Ms. Boston.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please? I missed the beginning.
How do you propose to help this town and this area retain young residents who leave Boulder Junction due to lack of opportunities?
Well, that, Dorothy, is probably the best question of the evening. That is a very tough question. Our youth go off to college, usually, and we want them to see the world and get experience. This is primarily, the reality is, it's primarily a retirement community. And we want to, it should be a priority to try to attract young families and young people, and by having broadband, you know, I'm sure that's a draw. Actually, when Casey came to some plaza meetings, he gave the input that having more music events and type events, things going on in the evenings, is what the young people want. So that was part of that discussion. So working on our economic development, for sure. We attract entrepreneurial, spirited people here, and you know, we have opportunity here. You have to, but it is a challenge since our economy is so seasonally based and weather dependent, which we have very little control over. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
I'm not sure exactly what I personally can do, besides supporting the Economic Development Connect Communities Committee. They are really working hard. They put that survey out there. That is one of the main questions they sat in meetings. How do we get young families, young people to come, and how can they afford to live here? We have to have some affordable housing. And I don't know the answer to that, but I do put out the agendas for their committee meetings, and I see that they sit there for a couple hours at a time sometimes, and they are brainstorming these sort of issues. And I think the Connect Communities and the Development Committee, they will find some common ground. I think maybe they will be reaching out to the high school and the other schools to try to learn more about what we can do locally. The UW, they have used our community center for different entrepreneur workshops, and I think that's very good. When the economic development, Dallas County went out on 51, they kind of started going to that hub instead of having their meetings here. But I believe that it sparked something in the community center because they did start it in the old building. And so if we could bring some experts from maybe the UW system, or maybe they will talk with the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer.
Again, yes, we are a retirement community, and we also don't have a lot of high-paying jobs in the area, which has been a challenge forever, and it's going to be a challenge going forward. One of the things that's slowing us down is the ability of high-speed internet. When I say high-speed, I'm talking fiber optic. They're laying the wires right now, so most of us are soon going to have, I have it already, at least 10 down and 1 up. And that's great. You can run a small business out of your home or a small business with that, and that's going to be adequate. But to get a real tech company in here, you know, which pop up all over the country, wherever they have good access to very high speed, I'm talking 60 megabytes minimum of fiber optic capability, they can create small businesses that pay decent wages. If we could somehow combine that, again, with the concept of some more affordable housing, we may be able to have some people buy 4 acres here somewhere, pop in a business that would hire 6, 10, 12, 14 people. I really believe that the technological challenge of high-speed access is really hindering us. We do have some logging jobs. We have our summer jobs and you know, within the resorts and the hotels, motels, restaurants. But as we know, our greatest export is our children. I have exported my own too.
Mr. Gross.
Thank you. I recently spent some time with Mr. Ebert, who was touring the school system, and I was down at Lakeland Union High School. And we had a complete tour of the school, and I was amazed at the technology that's being taught today to our students. In Fab Labs and in all the classrooms. I'm used to school books and sitting with a tablet of paper running down the answers. The interest that I see with the individual students, and some of them are here tonight filming this presentation, is amazing. And I talked to a citizen of the community, and he said, unless we have a draw for the students that are coming out of school, we probably should send them to other areas to further their education and someday come back to Boulder Junction, we hope. But we need a source to use these people that are coming out of this out of the schools and who are being educated to have jobs for them. And the jobs are very important, and we're going to have to establish that before we can have these people stay here. Otherwise they're going to hopefully come back and enjoy the retirement here as well.
Denny McGann.
Well, this is an ongoing issue, but I will say we do have young families here today with young children. Our clerk treasurer is a good example of that. She's raising her daughter here, is going to school here. There are other young families that I know that have talked to me and encouraged me, as I spoke earlier in my opening statement, about better recreation and youth programs for these children. There are people raising their children here now. We need to work towards that. We've not done a good job of that. We have catered to the retirement community, and if we continue to do that, it's obvious what's going to happen. So we need to focus some energy on that. The other thing is, the key is education. There are good trades jobs up here for these kids. We've got to steer them in that direction where they can make a living here and focus on that. The Economic Development Committee, in conjunction with the committee work that we're doing, is key and instrumental. I'm talking with one individual in the Chicago area right now who has a call center, and she's thinking about bringing her company up here. High-speed internet is key. But she would be able to hire people and put them in a call center that was good-paying jobs. So there are people looking at this. I'm also working with a developer right now that's bought some lots. He's looking at putting low affordable housing in as well. So I think we have to continue to work with these people and identify it and focus on it, because it has not been something we focused on as a town and a community.
Fred Marsh.
Being on the Economic Development Committee, we have a survey going out to the grade school and the high school to find out exactly what the students want from the town and what we can bring into the town to keep them here. Until we find that information out, high-speed internet is one thing that we need. Better paying jobs is another thing we need, but we need to find out the information first so we can plan and we can move on then from there.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, like Like you said, that is the $64,000 question. How do we keep people, young people here? I served a union apprenticeship in Milwaukee. We don't have any union trades up here as far as I know. I know that would help keep some trades up here, maybe give them a chance to learn how to be a carpenter, plumber, electrician, whatever it happens to be. Basically, we gotta hope that either they get trained by some of the contractors up here, or maybe they move up here like I did, and work that way. But I'm only a one-man shop. Down in Milwaukee, I was bigger. Up here, it'd be a little bit tougher. I do agree that the broadband is definitely a big thing. If nothing else, people that, besides retirees, people come up here on the weekends, they can maybe stay up here a little bit longer if they could work out of their home. And there's a lot of home guys, people that work in their home because they have the high-speed internet. They don't have to go into an office. So I do believe that the broadband is the key here to maybe getting more people to come up here. Thank you.
Next question comes from Arlene Bazichnik, who asks, do you support a sidewalk snow removal ordinance in the downtown area? And Ms. Marcheski, since I already pegged you to start first, so let's start with Mr. Spencer.
I'm surprised plowing private driveways wasn't brought up with that question as well. It's a question that we revisit every year. One of the challenges with the downtown area is it's a lot of county right-of-way there. And so the county has their plowing schedule, we have our plowing schedule, and there's some difficult corners there. I think yes, especially now with, I believe we have a new piece of equipment that, I don't know what the attachments are for that device, but I think it's time we rethink that whole concept of keeping those downtown areas clear. The people in the motels, especially around the corner there, across the street in Coontail, as soon as the county plow comes through there, the problem is, it's real simple. If that sits overnight, you gotta go out there with a jackhammer to get rid of it. It's a physical challenge. It would be, if it was just snow, we could grind it with a grinder and get rid of it. Also, there's very minimal places to put the snow. But yes, I think we should improve the way we're handling of our sidewalks downtown, without question. Again, we might have to add some additional staffing, part-time, what have you. Maybe even look at some different pieces of equipment. But considering what's going on in that area now, I think, yes, we need to readdress that.
Mr. Rice.
Sidewalk or any ordinances, I am not in favor of if they're impossible to enforce. I would like to see an initiative to keep our downtown clean and available for everybody to walk on. I don't know if that's a downtown business district or if that's a burden that all the taxpayers have to take care of and pay for. It's extremely difficult to keep our walks clean in the downtown area because we have a county highway running right through the center of town that gets plowed probably in a major snowstorm 4, 5, 6 times a day. So it's an extremely difficult job. We have great businesses and great citizens in this community that have stepped up and kept the walks and areas clean. There are a few areas that need to be addressed, and I think without an ordinance, with just plain common sense and talking with people, that we can get this accomplished without creating another law.
Denny McGann.
Well, I'm one of the guys that's been on the town board that's presented an ordinance for this a couple of times. It's been shot down every time I brought it up. So we haven't made any headway with it. The one thing that I got annoyed with as a town board member, and I still it's still an annoyance for me because I get the phone calls. It's when our town crew is out removing snow on the sidewalks in town in front of the absentee owners' buildings. It says, why are you shoveling their snow and you're not shoveling mine? I really don't like answering that question because that's your tax dollars at work to remove somebody's snow in front of somebody's building. We shouldn't be doing that. If we're going to do that, we should be doing it for everybody. We have purchased new equipment. We do have a chunk of money in room tax. And on those busier weekends when we've got all these people up here for the Christmas walk and everything else, we want to make our town look nice. We should make it look nice. We put our crew to work and we take that money and we put that towards removing the snow. Because if we can't get the homeowner or the business owners to do it, we're gonna have to do it for them. The volunteer thing hasn't worked. We have to do something about this because it affects the downtown business owners. They can't get through town.
Fred Marsh.
I think that you need to do, plus it's also a safety concern. If somebody slips and falls, town could get sued, and we don't want anybody to get sued. So if people don't want to do their own sidewalks, then we need to have somebody, hire somebody, pay them, and let them do it. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, first I'll address the ordinance. I think, as far as I understand it, we already have language in place for a town ordinance for snow plowing, or for shoveling, excuse me. So that's the least of our worries here. I think that the town crew also, I agree with the town crew should not be shoveling the snow on the sidewalks. These people that own businesses down there, they're shoveling their snow. You've got advocacy people that aren't doing it. If they can afford to have the building there in town, they surely can afford to hire somebody to shovel their sidewalk. I mean, we shouldn't be doing it. That's out of the question. So I think we should enact an ordinance and make sure that they're getting their sidewalk shoveled by a private contractor, not by the town.
Ms. Boston?
Thank you. Well, as always, the devil's in the details. I remember when Mr. McGann brought the proposed ordinance, and it was sample ordinances from area towns, but we do have a unique situation that Chairman Royce brought forward with the county going through, and it becomes so icy, you can't move it. Enforcement would be the issue with an ordinance. How do you enforce that when it's almost impossible to do because of the way, the structure of our town? In a perfect world, I would love to have all the downtown sidewalks shoveled and clean every year. But it's just very difficult to do. I like the approach also that Chairman Royce presented, that the personal touch, reaching out to the owners every year, every month if you need to remind them to please shovel their own sidewalks. I think that's a better approach for us at this time.
Dorothy, my name was mentioned in that response, and I can't remember what the rules are.
You got 30 seconds.
Yes, I have been the author of those ordinances, and I take issue with that particular response because this has been an ongoing issue and it's a problem. I mean, I've got people staying in the different motels in town that can't walk down the street, and we keep kicking this down the road, and we don't have an answer for it. We can keep making excuses, and I just think it's time to step up. I had one contractor plow one of the absentee owners. I said I hooked him up. He never got paid. Sent him a bill, never got paid.
Next question, let's see, comes from Jeff Long. It appears as if some candidates don't take town offices seriously. They think they can just show up at meetings and put their uniform 2 cents in and feel like that is enough. If we want Boulder Junction to move ahead, we cannot elect candidates with that attitude. Every job has its own special skills to master. A town elected official, supervisor, chairman, and clerk treasurer need to study and learn these skills. This is sounding a little bit like speech. The fundamentals of running a meeting, following open meeting laws, reading town-related statutes, and knowing what the town ordinances are. A lot of the town's difficulty this last year has been as a result of the board and clerk not understanding and following them. If elected, what is your commitment to learning the nuts and bolts of these jobs? Do you pledge to be accountable to the voters for the answer you give tonight? And related to that, this comes from Greg Van Grinsen. To all candidates, as a potential member of the town board, what specific functions of the town government are you willing to lead? And Mr. Royce, it's your turn to start.
Well, functions that I'm willing to lead is working for the community, obviously. It is our responsibility as a town board to adhere to all the state statutes and to complete what's necessary for requests from the public that has approached the town. I don't completely understand the question as to what our relationship or what our responsibilities are. We are responsible for the town and to the electorate to follow the laws of the town, the ordinances of the town, and to complete any businesses that are brought before the board to follow through on.
I'll repeat the question to try to clarify. What is your commitment to learn the nuts and bolts of these jobs? That means the job that you're running for. And do you pledge to be accountable to the voters for the answer you give tonight? And second, and related to that, as a potential member of the town board, what specific functions of the town government are you willing to lead?
Well, I'm willing to lead as far as town government goes, my responsibilities to the town, such as maintenance and, or supervision to our town crew for maintenance of the town and repair of the town. Overseeing the fire department, overseeing the community's projects, overseeing the parks board, working with the board members on, the individual board members on their participation in, as part of the town board.
Denny McGann.
This is a long question.
I'll just paraphrase it. I'll just paraphrase it for the rest
No,
of you.
that's okay.
Are you going to do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah.
And what are you willing to lead?
Sure. Well, I'm going to invoke a little bit of the number 9 here, no personal attacks, because I know where some of that question's coming from. So, so I'm going to answer this as best I can. In terms of what am I willing to lead, I've been involved with our fire department in working closely with them since I've been on the board. I've also been involved, and I'm committed to being more involved in parks and recreation for our youth. I've been talking to some other people, some actually young families that want to get involved, young people that are here with young children that would like to be involved with our parks programs in serving the community. And I would commit to working closer with them to get them engaged and let them take on some of the responsibility. I've hosted with another business in town. We refer to it as the Block Party. We've raised over $2,000 for our parks youth programs for the Little League team, and I will continue to do that. I was also able to get a generous donor to donate the bus for our recreation youth program, and I think this is a focus for us going forward with our young people, which also came up tonight. And as far as me being I've been committed to serving this community for the 6 years I've served, and I'm still committed to serving this community. And I do my homework, and I actually do understand the statutes. Sometimes people don't always agree with me when I understand them, but I do understand them.
Fred Marsh, again, commitment to learning the nuts and bolts, being accountable to the voters for the answers you give tonight, and functions of the town government that you're willing to lead.
Well, I'm going to start with the functions. I live right across from the ballpark, and that's one thing I like to work over there and help out building and improving the park more than what they've already done. I see the bike trail goes right by my house. As far as being committed to the town, if I'm elected, I work for you. And I expect you to hold me responsible for all my actions. Because if you don't, then why even, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Oh well, okay, Fred.
Mr. Johnson.
That's okay, I'd have to go with vice presidential candidate too.
Well, you know, obviously, when you choose to run and want, you obviously want to serve. And I've told somebody, as a matter of fact, it was today, I told somebody, geez, I'm going to run for town supervisor. And they said, my condolences. It's a tough job, no doubt about it. But if you're going to run, you obviously are going to be committed to the job. I like to read, so I want to learn everything I possibly can. Reading the state statutes and going over what is in them for, as far as the town goes. Obviously, too, if you're elected, you are going to be accountable to the people. The people are going to look to you, and if you're not doing the right thing, they're going to come after you. They're going to tell you you're not doing the right thing, and it is important to do the right thing as far as I'm concerned. That's why I'm running. I love this town, and I want to do the right thing for the town.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you. Well, as far as the nuts and bolts go, I'm not sure what it says about me as a person, but I like reading about the statutes. I like reading Robert's rules and studying that kind of thing. The WTA material, that's the Wisconsin Towns Association material. I find all of that very interesting, and I feel like that's something that I bring to the table, that I will be focusing on those things. The open meeting laws, why are those important, and why are those important to me? Because how can I, as a town elected official, say I'm working for you if we're not communicating? So the open meeting laws guarantees you have access to the meetings, to know what's going to be on the agendas. You have notice of that, so you can participate. If elected, I plan to institute new supervisor town hours, where I'll be based probably in the Nordloff room, 2 to 4 hours every week at the same time. A couple hours in the meeting, in the morning, a couple hours in the evening. So you have access to me, so I can listen, we can talk, maybe we have a roundtable discussion if a few people comes. I think that those are key, that we do this together, and those are important. Yes, I pledge to follow through, and if I can't follow through, maybe I think I can do this job. If I can't do it as well as I thought, I probably won't run again, but I do expect you to hold me accountable for that. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
When new issues come forth, perhaps a new idea or something, a town board meeting, I will contact other seasoned clerks or treasurers, or if need be, the WTA attorney, which is free, or the town attorney with board approval, if we need to kind of decide the best way to handle a new issue or questions that come up. I pledge to be accountable. I take my oath of office very seriously. I am constantly trying to find better ways to do my job and do it more efficiently. I will continue to do my best not to make a mistake, but I'm not perfect. I am still a human, and I appreciate the support and the encouragement that many of you in this room have given me, whether it's a hug, a smile, you're doing a good job. It really goes a long way because you don't hear it enough. But I promise to hang in there and do the best I can. Thanks.
Mr. Spencer.
Well, I recall back 10 years ago when I first joined up as an appointed supervisor, I was handed the famous blue book. It's I don't know, half an inch thick or so, that has all the state statutes in it that pertain to running town government. How to properly conduct meetings, how to make sure you stay out of legal issues, open records, making sure you don't break the open meetings law by talking to, if you only have 3 supervisors, you got, I mean, a three-man board, you basically can't talk to the other 2 about anything related to the town. And I thought, well, that's whatever. And of course, you stumble around a little bit at first. You make a few mistakes. You say, hey, Bill, hypothetically, if that was another board member, what do you think about that culvert out there on XYZ road? Well, in all reality, that is breaking the open meetings law. You should ask the town chairman to put it on the agenda and talk about it. You can send them a picture of a bad culvert and say, maybe, we should get this on the board, something like that, but don't start discussing what you're gonna do about that culvert. And it just keeps flowing forward from there. But I do have to say, after serving 8 years, I think I was getting it pretty good towards the end as far as making sure that we didn't end up being investigated or, possible action taken against us for violating the rules.
Time check. It's already after 8 o'clock. I think the candidates have been holding up very well. And I see bright faces in the audience, some smiling, some serious, but you're awake and paying attention. So let's just have a little 10-second break to at least let these folks get a drink of water and everybody take a deep breath. And we'll continue with a couple more questions and then the closing statements. I really appreciate the quality and quantity of the questions. We may not get to them all, and your attentiveness.
I'm almost empty.
I said 10 seconds. Nope. All right. I guess everybody needed more than 10 seconds, and everybody needed to stand up and talk themselves instead of just listening. But in the interest of getting some of these remaining questions answered, let's forge on. And the next question is for each candidate and starts with Mr. Royce. What is the town's biggest challenge, and what strategy will you follow to solve it?
Well, the biggest challenge that we have right now that we've been working on is our road program, and that seems to be an interest to the entire community because it's an item that comes up more often than not. It's also a big challenge to run government the way it should be run by state statutes and meet all the requirements of town government. And there's times that you slip or you don't understand, or you have to have somebody explain the rules and regulations of proper government. And I think running the town properly and listening to the community and listening to the electorate of what their requirements are and what their wishes are is very important to establishing a good base. The communication is always important, and to listen to the individuals and the individual problems that we have in the community is a very critical job that has to be handled. And I think that with the town board working together as a unit and working together and getting the community issues resolved is important.
Denny McGann.
One of the biggest challenges I see among all the other work we have to do is really, we have a great community and a great town here with great people and great volunteers. But over the past year, even really 2 years of this past term of mine, the community's pulled apart and was split. And there was some contentious meetings and things get angry. And so I think it's imperative as the board moves forward to pull the community back together. I want to make sure we're moving forward. We've got our oars in the water and we're all rowing in the same direction. At times over the past year or so, I've had a feeling we're rowing in a circle. And we can't be effective leaders of government in town if we're that divided. So I think our challenge moving forward is to help pull the community together as leaders and government leaders of the community, encourage the participation, and continue to focus on the priorities we have with fixing our roads and all of the other challenges we have as a community. But number one, I want to see us all pull back together. Let's get our oars in the water. We got a lot of lakes around here, so we're all rowing in the same direction.
And again, the question is, what's the town's biggest challenge, and what strategy will you follow to solve it? And that comes from Greg Van Grinsven. Mr. Marsh.
Well, I think roads are a big challenge, but I also think that people working together. This town used to be known as a friendly small town in the Northwoods. I don't see that right now. So I think we need to step back and take a look and say, how can we get back to the basics and working together? Thank you.
Mr.
Well,
Johnson.
first off, excuse me, the biggest challenge obviously is the roads, and Greg, you're on that committee, so you know you're putting a lot of hard work into that, and I know we're going to be able to get that done. I also want to say that as far as our current town board, I believe the current town board is made up of good citizens trying to do the right thing for our community. This is a part-time job executed by, in my opinion, good intentioned individuals. Nobody's trying to do something wrong here. Things happen, and mistakes can be made, but I do believe that our current town board has tried their best to do the right thing. And I'm sure that our next town board is going to do the same thing. We're going to possibly make mistakes, but you know, we're going to do our best to do the right thing for you. Thank you.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you.
It's hard for me to think of one biggest challenge. I look at things more holistically, at the town more holistically. Roads is always going to be a challenge and always a priority. I think putting our house in order, getting some of these pending things resolved will help as we go forward, focusing on opening up communication. How can we do that better? Always have citizens' opportunity to address the board on every agenda, whether it's a town board meeting or a committee meeting agenda. Once we start having the practice of civility and respect in our discourse, hopefully opening up that discussion more at our meetings, so that before any vote is taken, if anybody's in the audience, that you have the opportunity to give your input. You may have additional information. You may have another perspective. The best decisions are made with the most communication with the public. I think those are some things. Recruiting additional people to run for town board. I think that's one of our challenges that we have. All of those here tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
As far as the biggest challenge, I think everybody pretty much covered the biggest ones. And as far as my office is concerned, obviously the chairman sets the agenda, and if any of the other board members need something that they've been made aware of, and perhaps the rest of the board members aren't aware of it because an individual contacted them individually. They can certainly contact me or send me an email or call me and say, can you ask Dennis or whoever the chairman is to put this on the agenda so it can be discussed and communicated. Ever since I've been here, pretty much every regular town board meeting has had opportunity to address the board. And I think Barb is right, there are some special town board meetings or committee meetings that we have learned to put that on there. And it is helpful because the more brains that are wrapped around a subject, the more good ideas that you can foster amongst one another, which is also in the communication. And everybody cares deeply about Boulder Junction and its future, and we all know how to work together. Even when we disagree, we tend to find something that the other person is saying that we can relate to and maybe come to some common ground. And that's exactly how this building was built. And I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer.
Well, the reason I'm back here running again is from the people that I talked to out there and the public that approached me, is reuniting our community, like I've heard from several of the other folks. I got the sense of it just walking around, going into the hardware store, stopping at Coontail to get gas, where I get approached and these little side conversations were going on. And there felt like, a lot of people felt like they were totally being left out of the process because of the way the process changed. And so many special meetings at odd hours, some 9:30 in the morning, some 10:30 in the morning, some 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, some 6, 7 at night, and numbers of those meetings. It makes it very difficult for the citizens to feel like they can participate. And a lot of these meetings were only, the agendas only went out sometimes 24 to 48 hours before the meeting was held. And I think the majority of the town discourse should be dealt with at the regular meetings. The special meetings should be very limited, and closed sessions should be only used under the most drastic circumstances. So again, it boils down to trust, and also not overcomplicating the process. We can speed this up. It shouldn't take a year and a half, 2 years to figure out how to put out specifications for the roads. When I was your town chairman, we were throwing in roads, very aggressively. So I just think it's the restoring the trust.
Mr. Royce?
I answered already.
You did already, okay.
Yep.
I'll do it again.
Well, I got another question for you. This is going to be our last question, and I like this one because it's specific and because it celebrates what the responsible leadership and the people in the town and the town government have already accomplished, and just says, what's next? How can we build on this? So this is from Nancy Nelson, who says, if the majority of the town feel we must have a new park, then why not improve one that already exists? Nichols Lake Park. Existing features of Nichols Lake Park include natural lake setting with gradual sloping sand beach, easy access for kayaking, restrooms, paved parking lot, barbecue grills, tables for picnicking, fresh drinking water available at the pump, close to town, ideal setting for outdoor summer sports, and close to the Boulder Manitowish Waters bike trail. So how about improving the park or stuff that builds on that idea? And Danny McGann, you're first.
Great question, and I couldn't agree more. And I've spoken about parks and recreation a few times tonight as I've commented, and I think it's a key for us moving forward. I've spoken a lot about the youth recreation programs, but I think we have great parks, and we need to try to improve the parks we have. Let's expand on what we have, and let's make use of them. Let's make better use of them. And I think a good, sound, get some fresh faces on working towards that goal with a good, solid committee, not just the 3 guys or the 3 gals or whatever sitting on the town board. I want to encourage people from the community that are passionate about our parks to get involved with us. We're seeing some of this get accomplished now with our road committee because we've got some people on the outside helping us get things done. So I would encourage people to work with us. I think it's a focus moving forward. I'm committed to our parks moving forward. I think that's key, and it will bring more people to our area as well.
Fred Marsh.
I agree, because Nichols Lake is a unique lake, and Wyndham Park is a really nice place too. So if we improve on them, we can also improve on the ballpark, and we can also improve over here, make this more utilized. So I think getting committee people, getting the people, the citizens more involved, and getting them to sit down and communicate and see where we go with these parks, to improve them, to keep them healthy, and to let the people use them, and to tell people that where they are. I'm sure there's people that don't come up here that don't know where Nichols Lake is. So, thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, one of the parks that nobody mentioned was Blaisdell Park. We have that as well. I've heard people say maybe we could have a dog park where you can take your dog, run your dog off the leash. I know we have a lot of woods out here that we can run our dogs in, but maybe getting dogs together in one spot. I know a lot of people walk their dogs around the community center here. That's a nice park setting here. I've been to Nichols Lake. Again, that's a great place. I really like that park. The lake is gorgeous. And somebody else mentioned that we could maybe even set up music in we can call that music in the park instead of music on Main Street. Maybe have a music station at different locations with a band show. So I'm definitely on board in maintaining the parks and promoting them as a tourist attraction.
Ms. Boston?
Thank you. Well, to that question, I would say, Nancy, let's talk. I would love to hear your ideas, your vision for that, because I also think Nichols Beach it's just the best kept secret, and it shouldn't be. There's a lot that could be done with it, and I love your idea. And I include the Nichols Park in with Winter Park and this campus here in following through with developing those with how we can make the most of what we have. Thank you so much.
Ms. Marcheski?
The only comments really that I have, because obviously this is going to be something, if we needed to enhance something, we definitely have money in room tax for that. We also have a park savings account. So my suggestion is that we do need to have more committee members on the Parks Committee. We asked for more committee members, and I believe one person stepped up. And that was last summer. Does that sound right, Dennis? One person, Fred, stepped up. I don't recall a meeting at all last summer. So if we have some interested parties that have some good ideas, I would say let's see if you can. Currently, Dennis Duke is the park board chairman. We're not sure whether or not he wants to continue that or not, but definitely we need some more volunteers to create ideas. And there's money there if the board needed to approve something that you came up with.
Mr. Spencer?
Well, that was one of the concerns I had regarding the plaza, that it would be a instant singular raid on the room tax money for one project that would benefit the downtown, which is, we want to support our downtown, don't get me wrong. But to raid all but the entire amount of that budget for one project that was then going to also add the additional cost of maintenance going forward on it really scared me. And something I'm going to be sending around to some of you folks here later, I have this written right down. Some of that room tax money is to spruce up our parks, such as the H&K location, Nichols Lakes, and others. We need to continue this effort in areas such as Bay Lake, it's a beautiful beach out there, Jag Lake, another beautiful beach out there, and others where we can offer additional swimming and picnic opportunities. Also, we should consider adding some canoe kayak landings, because the kayaking and canoe traffic is growing every year as well. And also maybe to help promote, spruce up the DNR remote campsites. On the Gresham chain, we have one on Upper Gresham, I live on Middle Gresham, one on Middle, one on Lower. There are others all over the forest that are almost never used. That could be in combination with these spruced up kayak canoe sites. So I see a lot of ways to improve these parks without blowing the budget.
Mr. Royce?
I agree. We have a true asset in this community with the amount of parks and recreational areas, which is Nichols Lake, which Mr. Duke, who's on our Parks Board, was starting a program of improvements for that facility in itself. We have Winter Park. We have a fire break now between the ballpark and Winter Park. It will be seated this summer, and it will be used for access for fat tire biking, for hiking, for walking your dog. We are continuing to improve our park system. We improved our ball diamond. We went through extensive redevelopment of the parking lot and repair of the parking lot. We've installed new bleachers. We've poured concrete and enhanced the park itself and improved it with generous donations from our citizens, our taxpayers. And we are also installing and working with the DNR with fishing piers for individuals. We have just recently installed one in Little Rice Lake, so you have access to Little Rice Lake. We have it on Gresham Lake. We have a lot of facilities and a lot of assets to this community that we have to take advantage of, including our snowmobile trails and our bike trails.
lot going on, lots been done,
Very busy.
lots of ideas. And you folks in the audience have stimulated good discussion. This is the end of round 2, and we'll finish off with closing statements. Each candidate gets 60 seconds, just 60 instead of 90 seconds. And Denny McGann, we'll start with you.
Okay, to try to get an Irishman to get a point across in 60 seconds is really tough, but here we go. Listen, I've enjoyed working for this community for the past 6 years. I look forward to another 2 years of supporting this community whichever way I can. I would appreciate your vote on April 4th because I want to continue what we've got started, and I always like to finish what I get started. So, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for the support for this community. And please make sure, whether you vote for me or vote for somebody else, please make sure you vote on April 4th. Thanks.
Fred Marsh.
Thank you all for coming on such a miserable night. Like Denny said, please tell your friends to vote. Please vote. It's up to you to decide which one of us you want to be your new town board. I don't plan on leaving this town, so if I'm elected, great. I'll do my darndest to be the best town supervisor I can. And thank you so much for coming out tonight, even though it wasn't the greatest night.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, on April 4th, you will have a chance to put together a board that will not only listen to what you want us to accomplish, but will also work to shed a more positive light on our town. I hope you go back and talk to your neighbors and friends about what you've heard tonight. Encourage them to vote on April 4th for sure. That's a must. I also want to thank all of you in attendance tonight. It shows your commitment to our town. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to address the issues that most concern our town residents. Thank you.
Ms. Boston.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank you to our hosts once again. It's a pleasure living in this town. It's a special place. Not all Northwoods towns are Boulder Junction, and I know we all feel that we want to do our part in helping. I'd like to serve in this position. I've served in other positions for the town that I've enjoyed with the Community Foundation and the Education Foundation and others. This is another opportunity to serve. I like a challenge. I'll probably be eating those words, but so if you would please consider voting for me in the April 4th election, I would appreciate it. 10 years experience working in the clerk's office has given me a good background, I feel. A good start. There's still a lot to learn, and I look forward to learning. Thank you.
Ms. Marcheski.
Working in the town office for the past 5 years has shown me this is a challenging position. I've developed good working relationships with the town board members, the employees, the citizens, and the visitors to Boulder Junction. My office services the town board, other committees, road crew, transfer site, community center, vendors, county, state officials, the general public, and all administrative departments without exception. All of them call upon it almost daily for some services or information. Work is not spectacular, but it demands versatility, alertness, and accuracy, and no end to my patience. The public does not realize how many loose ends of town administration this office pulls together on a day-to-day basis. Tonight, I have petitioned your vote for Kendra Marcheski. I have to remember another saying of Marcus Aurelius. He said, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So exercise your right to vote. Have your voice heard on April 4th. Thanks.
Mr. Spencer.
I too want to thank the League of Women's Voters, the library, Lakeland high school folks, and the press, and all of the rest of you for coming out tonight. Incredible crowd, like always, we have here in Boulder Junction. I stand on my past record. Those of you who have 8 years to reflect upon of what I accomplished and maybe didn't accomplish while I was serving as your supervisor and also as your town chairman. And I also encourage all of you to contact me over the next few days before the election if you have any concerns, questions, want to know clarification on why I'm running again.
And many rewards. As a private citizen, a businessman, a community member who wears many hats like a lot of us here sitting at this table tonight, I seek a positive impact on the plan for the future. One can carry on. We need to capitalize on our assets and not become a cookie cutter community. Draw and build the strength. Provide to our citizens the business and opportunities of success. During my term of office, I have learned many things. One, there is being great pride in this community. I remain committed to the progress that we have made and to seek and continue your support, and I would appreciate your vote, and I will work for you 100%. Thank you.
Excellent job, everybody. Yeah, I think these candidates deserve that applause and more for their commitment, for answering the questions to the best of their ability. I thank you folks for showing up. Everybody stayed glued to their seats and paid attention and asked good questions. And I just say thank you and congratulations. That's what makes our government work. Thank you to the volunteers, to the public library volunteers, everybody else who helped out. And let's get home and get safe.